Thanks, Andy. All right. Good, thanks, Andy. Are we ready? Hey, Chief. Welcome back. Nice to see you there.
Yes. He's got his rain on it. We take all the stormwater stuff. I hit a dry spell there.
You have a strong left hand at this point. Okay, new borough logo design. Please.
Yes, I thought I'd save the pain of everybody looking at those designs we had previously. I sent some information about a company that does logo design. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at the website.
I really
looks like
like
it's
it.
right up the alley. Had a real good conversation with Mr. Mahood. So if council's okay with using these guys to write a logo and
Yeah.
save it on contact,
Definitely.
I'll get them tomorrow and we'll have it done by the end of the month. We'll give us multiple options to choose
Yeah.
from.
That's great. His portfolio looked great.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
Perfect.
Good. Okay.
Thanks.
Good. Very good. Old Orchard Pickleball. And we reopened April 1st, that Old Orchard. And I think based upon discussions last year, where we ended up was we kind of implied that, I don't know if we applied or stated emphatically that we would get the two groups together again to discuss from each perspective where we are and go from there. As with all compromises, sometimes it ends up that neither side is really happy, but maybe that's an indication of a good compromise. But in any case, I think what we'll do is try to arrange to get them together again and talk about the issues and what, if any, alternatives might be. But at the present time, unless council has other thoughts, we'll reopen the courts at Old April 1st and require the use of the quiet ball. Do we have a supply of those still?
We will restock.
Okay.
Zach has it up on his computer with a send button.
We don't have any left?
We had very few left.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
Were most of them purchased or just
Given
out? Some turned into dog toys, some were given out. No, they weren't it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be as far as theft and stuff.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we had lost a few for a while there and then it kind of leveled off. So, but people were still buying them even when we were supplying them.
Okay, good.
So it's not a total loss on our end.
So we're gonna keep supplying them then too? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely cut down on instances.
That makes sense to do it then.
Okay. New business. March regular meeting agenda, Max.
All right. Kathy and I and Tara and Tim have been working with WetGo to get their approvals in place. That's what you can see in front of us here. There isn't anything on the agenda relating to them, but that's what this is. In terms of the agenda, we do have the old business, and we can talk about in executive session, Yocus conditional use application, as well as the Cardinal Ridge Townhouse Plan. For the public discussion, you can say they did go to the planning commission, so reluctantly, but we're all here for the discussion February 15th, but at the February 21st meeting, it was reviewed in terms of the revised stormwater plans, and a recommendation to approve was made out of the planning commission. So we amended the resolution further to reflect these more recent developments since we last considered the plan at the February 15th meeting.
Just including the stormwater provisions.
Pretty much. I mean, updated engineers reports, updated staff report, changing dates, things of that nature. We do have,
If I read the minutes right on, from the planning commission, I think that they were included in our packet with. They reapproved, they reapproved the whole project, not just, they just didn't look at the stormwater, so it's a cleaner,
yes,
overall group.
right, and that was reflected in the updated preamble to the resolution. Only one modification being requested with respect to the distance between the Lorick Lane and the new road, 175 feet rather than 200. In terms of other business from the planning commission, previously, they had recommended approval for the YMCA pavilion, which, as we were talking about out there, would be nice to have right about now, so we could have a meeting on the borough property over there, but it has not been built yet. They do require a conditional use, public hearing and approval, because this is an accessory structure over 1,000 square feet in a residential zone. However, it is a non-residential use. And it had previously received a variance from zoning hearing board to allow this to go forward. So we have that first and foremost, motion 6. Motion 7 is the resolution on the land development plan along the same lines. We can talk a bit about Emma Gross, that plan. Looks like we don't have the bid openings yet. But I don't know, Sean, or it was the Emma Gross plan reviewed,
Yeah,
number 8.
that letter may have been issued out. If it didn't go today, it's on its way, holding it for timing. It will be a reduction, not a full release.
Okay.
So a little bit of cleanup there. We did meet with the developer in the field and we clean up on the access road. So that's all left. Yeah, yeah. All the stormwater stuff is in, all that's included.
We might, depending on that timing, do a motion for an addendum. What is it? They're coming up due, it's coming close, so we might, I don't know if we'll get it on. It's been drafted, it was ready, we send that letter out when we come close, or Kathy sends it out when we come close to the end of the completion period. Remind developers to ask for final inspection or otherwise increase the amount of financial security and ask for an addendum, extend the time period. So that might be forthcoming, because they thought they were completely done, but they're not. So about it.
Any other questions, Mac? Okay, staff report, Cindy.
Everybody has my written report. I don't have anything additional other than what was in the written report. Anybody have any questions?
I really like your dissertation on employee. It looks like something we might want to pursue and from a long range standpoint. That was
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
informative.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
yeah. Council thinks it would be something. I'd be happy to take a look at it. It does seem like probably at some point this year, we'll have to take a look at that manual anyway, as we will hit 50 employees. I know I sent an email to Max, and so that will pop us to,
Yes.
FMLA adherence and some other things. So
Yeah, it certainly raises a lot of questions and I'd probably have a half a
Absolutely.
dozen, but we get to that point. I think we should pursue it. That was, very, very.
And I had asked when we received that, for John McCreary and Alex Brown, who've been helping us previously on some of the COVID policies, is there a guidebook or something that you can pull off the shelf on, okay, you've hit 50 employees, what happens next? Here's everything. Unfortunately, nobody has invented that.
You need to write.
darn, yeah, someone's business plan.
But yeah, Alex did give me some, and I'll share them with you in terms of, yep, here's how it's going. And there are other considerations for, the year you hit it and the year that, follows, all sorts of
So
extra forms and paperwork.
50 employees for dummies, here we go.
Yes, exactly. I'll do it.
Okay. Any questions for Cindy? All right. Gary.
Along with my report, I just want to let everybody know that N&N Landscaping is going to start doing curb work again, the additional or the leftover curb work they have over Sturbridge plan. They're looking to probably start next week. They're gonna put in one call first and then, anybody's questions, anything, so that everybody knows that they'll be backing there, starting to, open up areas in the curbs and the driveways. We started a little bit of work in the, Acorn Park, taking the fence down there. We're gonna be removing the asphalt, lot at some point there, maybe starting at probably tomorrow, there, start taking a lot out. Another thing I wanted to give you an update on the salt that we had. Actually, the borough saved a good bit of money this year. Probably overtime.
We're gonna have an unhappy.
Overtime and, you know, I mean, I keep saying every week, there's a possibility of getting hit more, but hasn't done anything, but, right now, we still have to buy a minimum. We have to still purchase a minimum of close to 1,600 ton. So, we have a 3,000 ton that's in our salt dome. That's gonna put us up. As we did a couple years ago, we had the same thing a couple years ago where we had to stockpile. So, I think it's pretty much inevitable. We're gonna be stockpiling some salt this winter or this spring here. So, which is good because we're still saving a lot of money on it. We still probably money wise, it's probably right now we're looking at just the minimum is we're gonna spend $122,569 just to meet the minimum. The only thing that runs us into is when we get next year. I mean, I've already American Rock Salt does a early bid. They put their salt out to bid early, which we already bid on, and we so far got to take a minimum of 2,200 ton with them. We're probably going to end up doing the same thing we did a couple of years back, where we'll probably eliminate Morton Salt and won't buy anything off of them. When you do that, you still take a chance if you have a bad winter. There's a possibility that you could run low on salt at some point, but we're still going to start out. We'll start out next season. If everything's going the way it is, we're going to start out next season with probably 4,000 ton at least. Right now it's showing 44, almost 4,600 ton. But I'm still thinking we're going to get hit with a little bit of snow, but it hasn't happened yet. So that's just an update on the salt. So and if anybody else has any other questions.
Just a comment. I thought the guys did a great job, and then Tom was over there on the war memorials. They were really good.
Thank you. Yeah, I had the mayor who called me. He checked it out.
For the memorial?
Yeah.
Well, that was gonna be one of my remarks. Okay, so I included. No, thank you. Great job on the memorial. It's cleaned up really well. I got a before picture, after picture. I'm very pleased with the work that's been done there. I think Tom Losco and the really involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that's all I have. And if there's any other questions.
Questions for Gary? All right, Tim.
Okay, so for March, we have a old business application coming back for property on Tiger Lane. There's been some revisions that the property owner has done, and he wants to put them before the board. So that's their only agenda item. And right now, we don't have any agenda items for the planning commission. Tomorrow will be the deadline.
Wow.
So, all I got it. There's any questions?
We're going to talk. I know you said in the report you had additions to the staff report on yoga.
Yeah, so you should have my staff report there, and the revisions are on there, and it was some of the things that I was hearing at the meeting in the past. So,
okay, so
I
then
think
this is the update.
yeah, I think they're good line items there that will certainly help some of their concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Zach.
You have our report. The only additions are that the newsletter is getting printed. Hopefully we'll have it in mailboxes coming up this week or so. The only other thing would be, like Gary said, we started work at Acorn. We have started some trail marking over there. We have received proposals for the playground and for the pump track. We're not completely satisfied with what we've received, so we are reaching out to some other companies to see if we can't get some better numbers and some better visually as far as the playground and stuff goes for what our vision is for that park. But those are obviously two major items for that grant project. So we're moving forward as fast, but we're trying to be responsible and make sure we get what we want. That's all I have.
So the council understands timeline at Acorn. Because we're disturbing over an acre with the work we're doing, we have to get an NPDES permit, which we probably won't get until August or September. So we can't do any grading over that time, but we can do demo work, which we're doing, removing the tennis court there and also potentially removing the playground. And we're also marking the trail, and we can get in and start grubbing for the trail and spreading millings for the trail if we want to. We just can't do any major earth moving. Also talked to Sean, and we're adding a restroom to the plan as well.
Oh, nice.
We do have public water there, not public sewer, so it'd be a restroom in the tank.
And I did mark where a possible location for that is today as well, based off of the CXT plans that we looked at for Blueberry.
I have one for you.
Go ahead.
I continue to get inquiries, not many, but I still get inquiries from seniors about our senior lunch.
Mhm.
You know, and I respond that likely is not going to continue because of the inflationary factor of it. But I'm just wondering if we shouldn't take an official position and post something, just say we're not gonna do it. And, still got people out there wondering about it.
I mean, we can certainly post something. We haven't advertised it. Unfortunately, other companies have advertised it for us because I have received inquiries too. But there are these third-party people who just grab whatever they can and put it together in publications. I think it's like the Blue Book. I think is the one I've heard it.
Oh, is
most
that where it's
from.
coming from?
That's the senior Blue Book or something is what I've heard 2 or 3 times. But we as a borough have not had that.
I'm just saying, I still get inquiries and it seems like we still do too. So.
It's been a few months now, but yeah, that was the last one. Like you said, I started digging a little deeper on, because it was new people. And it was one of those, how are new people finding out if it's not the old crew that we had there before? So that's the answer I kind of got from that.
So what you're saying is even if we were to do something internal with our website, it's still getting out there other ways.
Correct.
Do you do anything or just let it alone, I guess? Maybe, I don't know.
You have any thoughts that we could charge for it? If you want.
Well, but the thing is, with, believe me, I was part of that lunch. It used to be $2.
Yeah, right.
Okay, and then we increased it to $10 because we used to bring our own stuff in and then we had to get it catered. There was a huge. The $10 created an issue, let alone trying to go to 15 or 20. I'm just telling you, 15 or 20 is not gonna fly.
Right, okay, so the self-evident then.
And that honestly was, seniors were kicking in 10, we were paying like $10.50 a meal plus delivery charges
Right, yeah,
pre-pandemic.
yeah.
Now to go get those meals today, it's $14, $15 and a $50 delivery charge. Before you even start. So yeah, like the mayor said, you're up to at least $15. And it'll be the same thing, which is I'm on a fixed income.
Right.
I can't afford 10, much less.
So I'm
7.
just wondering if, when we get these inquiries, I mean, would it be proper for, say, that they're discontinued, that we're not gonna continue them? I mean, rather than kind of say, well,
Sounds like they are discontinued, unless there's such a.
That's what I'm trying to firm up. If we decide here that we're just not gonna do it, then any more calls, I think it's not gonna happen.
I mean, it is a nice
Well, it is.
thing to do from a public standpoint. It is a very small select group.
Well, we usually get about 40 people,
40 people.
40 people, yeah.
but those 40 people are not gonna pay the $15 or $20 to make it happen.
Not when it used to be 2.
Was that Luke?
Not when it used to be $2.
Well, we offered that, we can go back to cooking.
Yeah.
That's fine, but nobody wants to cook either. And that's the, would you get more people if it was even $5 and you're making your own food? Yes, probably. But again, if we have the same 10 people cooking every month, they're not gonna put up with that
That's
either.
basically the problem.
Yeah.
too. Okay. Thanks for it.
You good with that?
Well, I'm good with that. I mean, as I answered this, one I just got this week, it's just due to the inflationary factor of, facing with right at this moment, we're not doing it at this time. If you can just leave it at that.
There's a surge in interest, bring it back and look at it again, for sure.
John, I have a question for Zach. I know in our budget for this year, we have the replacement piece of equipment for Old Orchard Park for the whatever, it's the spring loader when we removed. But I know there's a trash can sitting over it now. And then didn't we order some of those, the covers for the tables at Blueberry?
So the flowers are here,
Okay,
and also the large shade that we ordered in the fall that's coming as well. So they're all at the park.
it's ready to.
Well, we're playing the same game Gary is maybe it's spring, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
So do you start to break ground and then in winter decides to show up is the problem. But we are starting to get into some of our spring stuff. So we should have a little more time because we are ahead of that stuff to start getting those two projects in. And then I know we had looked at doing the I think 2 single cantilevers over at the Blueberry Patch as well. We have not ordered them, but those could be, again, something that we can look into fall for. Order them in the summer, get them in the fall and set them up at that time.
I just happened to be at both parks today for a brief period of time with grandkids, so.
Yes, Blueberry was very full today.
Actually, Old Orchard, I couldn't get on the
Yeah,
swings.
really.
Yeah, the swings were packed. Yeah. So I actually was, what started in Old Orchard and had to go to Blueberry to find a swing for the kids.
There's 2 swings at Acorn still.
Yeah,
They're still there.
all right, well, it's just,
The frog's still there.
Letty wants it.
I'll let her know.
The rec board meeting was canceled, probably because no activity in winter activities.
I'm sorry?
The rec board meeting, I see, was canceled.
Yeah, we just didn't have everything in because right now we're just basically packing bags for Easter and doing planning for the festival.
Yeah.
Which is just vendors and stuff, so
Right.
there's no sense of pulling everybody together for something that can be taken care of in an email. Because basically here we are with who is booked already, and this is what I need from you as far as reaching out. Now we'll pack bags this month for Easter, which is actually the 31st and April 1st. And we're already like 70% full for that. Actually, the older kids on Friday night are full. And then the younger kids are about 70%.
Wow.
So, which is not worried, we'll be full probably in the next 10 days.
Lent just started. Anything else for Zach? Jim, speaking of activity, the golf course was packed.
Did you see the revenue report?
We get a few maps, probably biggest really. So yeah, my report, that on the Thompson, the guys have been in the parks with all the dead tree removal, so we wrapped up Limbrook today. There's a few around the log cabin, we're gonna take down the old cherries, other than that, the flowers in Old Orchard and setting the foundations for the shades will be coming up here in March before spring really hits in. And then the other thing I had to add is to the golf course with the POS system. We have some issues with the spot on contract for the software. So I'm looking at other options as well. I have a meeting tomorrow with a different company, and it doesn't seem like we're getting anywhere with them that
We got somewhat, at least they recognize we don't need a personal guarantee or something else. They still
Social
want
security
somebody's
number.
social security number to run a credit check and a card. So you get a ding on your credit report, and they don't have a governmental form Hey, Kenny, just kind of shocked.
Yeah.
We gave him Kathy. He's been.
What was that number?
Yeah, one, two.
And I guess up front here, somebody may have seen the one oak tree is now out here.
I haven't seen it, but I was in the room.
Yeah, they were in it Friday pruning and it got about halfway down and he said where it all splits off, because it was raw. At any given time, one of those big limbs could have came off. So and he said it had oak wilt, like with any other things that have wounds like that. So unfortunately, it had to come down.
I asked the AC to give us guidance on, I thought we'd replace it with two smaller trees, like 30-foot tall trees.
Even along that same note, like out front here, as you come in, some of our old hollies, the old barberries, the roadies that really haven't, they're older and they looking to replace some of that and push some of the mulch back and redo some of the edges. They're coming up. The spring, as the weather left us kind of clean up, spruce up the front a little bit and try to get some better plants that are pollinators and other than our neutral, the use and stuff have no impact on the environment that we want them to. So a lot of that'll just come out and get replaced with some, I guess, design people that give us a couple better ideas and better plants that'll add some color and some meaning.
I understand oak wilt is contagious. What about the other ones out there?
Unfortunately, it's kind of like Dutch Elm's disease and things like that. Once, I mean, it could go as fast as you can get that one down, as long as the other one doesn't have it. But
We might be better off.
oak will's one of those things that once you have it, it jumps from one to another.
It was an issue years ago in what Acorn Park.
Acorns, there's some big ones on the fairway on 6 that have it. You see in the spring, especially when the new growth comes in, it looks great, and then by like June, it all shrivels up. And those are usually signs that it's struggling internally.
I saw the baseball field, you're looking at the sod option.
The sod, we talk about sod, seed, the cheapest way is to seed it, but then you have to do like shut down a field or even late fall and hope it comes in by spring. And measure it out today, it's about 4,000 square feet on like field 1. It should come in, which is only a couple of $1,000.
Okay.
Of sod. If you do it early enough, it'll root. You don't have to go out trying to water it through summer type stuff. So try to work with that.
I know 4. What are you thinking about? I know it's got a lot of problems.
4 might be one of those ones that we do actually, because it's the infield's different, the outfield's crooked. We just one of those afterthoughts when it was put in. It's just not, if you stand it along the third baseline, you can see how high the grade goes up to the outfield. So that's something in the future we have to look at, the other ones we can, they're not perfect, but they're manageable. And there's things we can do to make them better. Where 4 is one of those ones where no matter what you do, you're spinning your wheels a little bit where you may have to completely start over one, maybe like late fall, like October, clean it up and be ready for the next year or something like that.
And you mentioned in the past, you think it should even be rotated, don't you?
That field 4 is in the batter's eyes from 5 p.m. on all summer. So, the worst thing you can do is put the sun in batter's eyes. You're luckily that is the little field. So if they're going to get hit, they're not going to get hit too hard. It's just by coach, but still it's a whole safety issue there. So yeah, we've looked at it a couple different ways.
Especially in the future, when we do the baseball concession, if we move that power box within that corner, there'll be more options to that's not there.
That's right.
So there's
there.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
All right, thanks.
Anything else for Jim? Engineers.
Thank you. Here's a copy of our report. I guess just a couple updates since we published this that we haven't already talked about. Kind of a half submittal from Squire Ridge yesterday. Indicated they've done a couple of the punch list items, fixed sidewalk. They did done some work at the pond and some more information is forthcoming. So we'll look for that. We'll coordinate with staff. I'm not sure that'll be an agenda item quite yet, but do have some activity there. And the other one was Willow Ridge. We did get a submittal there with some as-built information that we were requesting. The only complication, but the only item for them, one of the outstanding items was functionality of the detention basin, whether it be watered and dried out. We need a few days of no rain to really evaluate that. But they did provide us a middle. They said they worked on it. There was water in it today, but it had rain, so, we'll continue to follow up on that.
The HOA keeps following
up. Yeah. My feeling is that there's probably more to come there, but we're gonna give it a fair look when it's been dry for a couple days. Aside from that, the other updates are as shown in the letter, or as shown in the memo, and as discussed previously along the way.
Question? Yeah. If everybody's following along in the packets, it's 278 on in the packet, but 0.9 for your report for Cardinal Ridge. Question: the report does not include narrative regarding long-term stability of the hill slope and the effects of infiltration on the slope. What is that? What are we talking about?
So, additional information in the geotechnical report.
Yeah,
But the grading had changed when it went from a surface basin to a subsurface basin.
right.
We did get a submittal actually a few hours ago. They said they submitted a couple weeks ago. I don't think the borough got it either. It got rejected by our email system because of the file size. So they have a response to that. We haven't reviewed it yet. We came a couple hours ago. And basically a different look at the geotechnical report for the underground tank.
Because it says that they talk about the I think it's soils type C versus type B. But understanding correct, that's probably a different section right now.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
What's going on with that one?
So that was primarily a typo fact.
Okay.
The numbers in the information, the meeting to the punchline were wrong. The numbers they used to get to the punchline were wrong. I wanted to make sure there weren't kind of factual inaccuracy there, even though it didn't change the end result. And again, that was, we haven't looked at it in detail, but that believed to be in this middle that we got today that was delayed from last week or so.
And the adjacent property owner, the one that's been appearing and talking about the fact that the water's now going directly into their property. Has there been any submission or study or anything indicating that what she's saying is inaccurate or what they're saying is accurate?
Well, in a stormwater report, it shows that they don't increase rate, meet the requirements of the ordinance. The change from basin to underground tank really didn't change the discharge points or the rates or anything, which is changing how you get there. So the report says that they meet the requirements of the ordinance. The issue she may or may be having, in the same person, I don't know. But as we look at it from an ordinance perspective, calculations.
And do we have any concerns about the inspection costs or maintenance of the underground facility? Since this is kind of a new thing to have this in residential.
Yeah, so it's different. It do exist throughout the borough, and throughout other locations in Western Pennsylvania here. So we need to make sure the O&M plan represents that. They do inspections themselves. They keep it on file, at least biannually, and then when it rains, the inspection reports that they're professional. It's a little bit out of the norm for a residential development, mostly because of the cost. Actually, it's more cheaper to do a basin. When you have a residential development, you often have open space to put it in. Conversely, if you do a non-residential development, you don't always have open space. You end under a parking lot. So atypical, they do have that O&M plan. So I guess short answer is not outside of the normal realm of what we want to see for a stormwater report otherwise.
Did you say we're going to get a report every year from them on what's going on with the underground facility?
So the owner of any privately owned BMP has an obligation to do inspections in certain intervals after certain rainfall events and then just periodically throughout the year. They're supposed to keep all of those on file. If the borough asks for them, we're entitled to see a copy of those. So that's actually in the standard O&M agreement, not just for this one, but for anybody, for Sheets or Whitco or whomever. Those are there to keep them on file. Yeah, and the borough can certainly ask and not even have to wait for them to ask. We can just set up here as part of the development agreement, even if we redundantly say it, hey, every 6 months, 70 to it, so we have no time.
Okay, so it can go in developer.
Yeah.
Developer.
It's already in the O and M agreement.
Right.
To say redundantly, if we wanted somewhere else, I'm sure it can be somewhere else, but it's already in the developer or the stormwater O&M agreement that gets recorded. Same thing, if that were to sell, we sell to another person that rents, that goes with the land and that's there, and they know their obligation, they know the tank is there. They know they're obligated to inspect it, repair it. Or
Whose problem is it, or maybe it's hypothetical, 50 years from now, if and when it fails, who's got to replace that?
So if it's still the owner, or if it's still as it is now, it's the property owner. We talked before, ultimately the borough is made the middleman by the regulatory agencies to a certain extent. So if you have a non-compliant property owner, no different than a non-residential development. So if you had a non-compliant owner, it cheats. The department would look for the borough to step in, do something, fix it, and then we get obviously into the headache of cleaning the property and trying to recoup costs and all that kind of. But unfortunately, that's the scenario. No different than if it was a pond or surface space.
Although, I mean, the only difference, and this is a more recent method of dealing with particularly stormwater. So 2008, we passed our Act 167. It was really just for the corner part of the borough, but we applied it everywhere. That was the first time Allegheny County had a model ordinance. And that was for like the 60s or 70s when they were supposed to start it. But a lot of scenarios where you have a pond that there was no recorded operation and maintenance agreement. So it was always the borough who the regulatory agencies would look to, and he'd say, well, I don't know. Now, as Sean is saying, there's a recorded document. It's only 2 pages, but it says landowner, I'm gonna have this stormwater BMP on my property. It's gonna run with the land. Here's my operation maintenance schedule. You attach that, you attach a copy of the plan. You say, I give the borough an easement to come in and look at it at any time. But one thing we did back in 2008, and then we redid it again when we re-upped the ordinance. Yeah, the model language said it's the borough that goes in and inspects it every year. But we sort of flipped it and said, nope, it's on the property owner to provide that report back to us. Then, as John's saying, if something does happen, if it does fail or anything like that, we've got a property interest, and we have the ability to say, well, you didn't do this based on this recorded document. It's essentially a contract. Because you didn't maintain it, we're gonna maintain it and we're gonna collect it from you and then in some sense, or file a municipal claim and lien against the property and secure it, which you didn't have before. And it was private property that.
Yeah.
weren't-
So one step further, you didn't maintain it, it failed. That you can still go after them for the fail.
Yes.
So-
Yeah, they're in breach of those obligations that
Okay.
they committed to when they got the approval.
And is it a condition you could place where you say you're gonna post a bond to protect the replacement value on this thing going forward?
Yeah, the plan commission, they talked about it a little bit
Yeah.
in terms
So I
of,
can add a little commentary if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was brought up, there were a few of us that were in favor of that. Again, we had to vote on the plan on its entirety, so it did not make it in. So just, these do have a lifespan of 50 years according to manufacturer, however, being less PGA in the terrain and other factors, it's more than likely 25 years. There was an engineer that was there to field questions. KU Resources is the consultant. So there were a lot of questions answered regarding it, but in terms of bonding, something for that effect, that didn't make it in. Doesn't mean that council could not, request that. Because at the moment, like Max, you explained, the borough is on the hook. If something does happen, borough is obligated to basically clean it up and deal with the problem. The other thing, I think, I don't know if it was mentioned, if you caught it or not, but the inspection period is for the first 5 years or something, it's every year. And then after that, I think it goes to like every couple of years or every 3 years, which seems a little odd because it's newer at the beginning. Wouldn't you inspect it less when it's newer and more often on the tail end of it when it's prone to failing. So just some technicalities that are there that just did not make sense that we might want to kind of tweak or strengthen.
And I think that I still go back to the issue. Do we know how much that facility is right now?
I did ask, finally it was admitted, it's about $75,000.
I'd be grudging, you said a minute, so, all right, so. Figure 25 years from now, it's gonna be a lot more than that to replace it.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's, I don't know, this is something where you can do it by pieces or do the entire thing. They have pictures. I don't know if they sent it to council, but there's pictures of what this looks like, and it's metal pipes. And I understand we have a lot of metal pipes failing the burn, so this is.
Tin whistle.
Tin whistle.
Yes. You saw what happened when they do that too. Yeah, at the bottom of our road, one failed, and it caused a backup all the way up to Dalton and caused all sorts of stormwater problems. And then luckily, what was the water authority that did the camera on it? Somebody did a camera on it. Yeah, so, and figured it out and repaired it and fixed it. So yeah, collapsed pipe and caused major stormwater problems.
Yeah, there's a lot of details in that.
That will only details.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. Thanks.
All right. Further questions? Stormwater.
All right, so I do have a few updates tonight. Bramblewood, we met with the landowner, Region I, last Friday. And he had some requests, like to add to the design. Like to add well, he's calling it a wet pond. I guess you could call it a wet pond, but it's basically a permanent pool within the existing facility. So we're going to be converting that facility to an MRC design, which allows the water to infiltrate in the bottom of that facility. So a wet pond or a permanent pool, kind of opposite what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the water to go into the ground, and he's trying to prevent it from going into the ground. So that's for an engineer, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I think that might be challenging to permit. Can I do it? Yeah, time and money. You can do a lot of things. But that'll just, that will be some additional costs for the borough, not only for me, but also in construction. We need to do some.
It is the property owner's property, so he could always say to us, you're not gonna do this MS4 project here, and then we're really in the creek.
And then what's the acronym MRC stand for?
Managed release concept.
Okay, which is getting it into the ground instead of leaving it dead.
So it gets into the ground because the filtration was not adequate. Below that, it's a newer design, really, that DEP promoted probably about 5 years ago now. Maybe MRCs came out where you're allowing the water to slowly leave the facility through an underdrain. So can be done. I think what we would need to do, if it could be permitted, that is kind of a big question. I don't know that they're going to definitely rubber stamp that, but it's possible. We would need to actually, because we would be adding some fill into the existing facility. This would be a wet pond for ducks and aesthetics, and it would make the area look nice. We would need to excavate some of the areas. I think it's to the north within the facility, expand that volume there, use that as our borrow site, and then construct the berm to create the area where there's this aesthetic pond. So could do that. We want some infiltration testing in that area specifically. The other ask was he would like an access road cut to the northern side of that pond. So again, just a little bit more time for us and a little bit more money in construction. So we really don't need the access road. The plan was to get into the basin as quick as we could, which is from an access road that he has up to that facility right now, and they get down into the pond. We weren't planning on using the breastwork of the dam. We made an assumption that was our plan, but it wasn't our plan. Just really for safety, because how many trucks that we would need to export and import material, when we're doing that amended soil. Inevitably, somebody's gonna lose a tire over one side or the other and end up in Pine Creek. So I don't think that was a good plan, but our plan was to get into the basin as quick as we could, use a track truck or mat at the bottom of the basin, because it is mucky in some areas right now. So it certainly wouldn't support a triaxle. So work from the north to the south and then get out. The deeded public access goes up to the street above. I forget the name. Rich, do you know it?
Wexford Run.
It's in the Ramblewood plan.
Bramblewood, Douglas.
That's the deeded access, that's Steve
Yes,
Hill.
Roger.
That's the hillside. Yeah, so
Okay,
maybe lesson learned.
yeah.
And that,
Yeah, we should.
that's just impassable. You can probably barely walk it and to try and haul, I think 4,000 yards of material on it. It's a big pond. And so 4,000 yards out of there, just really, basically, there's no access to it. So, that's a tough one. The
His
other
biggest
thing-
concern is that the access point that we're looking at to the pond and the road itself, the back there runs right past its house, so it would be the constant truck noise right up against its house. And
So the
again,
other road would avoid that, is that the other
well,
access
he'd still be
road?
driving past his house, but there, they wouldn't then be entering the pond, or they'd be going around it. And part of that is, that would help start to create a road for him for a possible 2 houses on his property. In the back. The
So we're
lot.
doing a little horse trading, aren't we? We get
Yes,
together on
usually
the board done and
Yeah,
he got,
he knows what he's doing.
yeah, so.
He's a developer.
What kind of timeline are you talking? Trucks in now?
Really, I don't think that's gonna take a ton of time. It really, it depends on weather, because you wanna do that in the dry season, July, August, we get a nice, good, hot, dry summer. One of these years, hopefully this will be the year, that won't take too long with a good contractor. I mean, you could get, I don't know, a month or 2, in my guess. So one other thing about the road, coming across it, there's a pretty steep slope. I would at least want our geotech to do a desktop review to see, historic landslides in this area. Do we know of any red beds? I mean, starting to cut into the toe of that slope. I don't want to end up creating a bigger problem. And depending on what that desktop finds, you may potentially need those geotech guys. There's a lot of risk there. There's a lot of unknown, everything's below ground. You can't see it unless you do borings. So I don't know that's how it would go, but it's just one thing after another, and it's all time and money. So that's the good news on Redwood. Matterhorn is really no news. I don't know. We probably should talk to those residents sooner rather than later. And then on Bear Run, we're ready to resubmit some minor comments, responsive comments to the Conservation District. And then we did get a minor deficiency letter from DEP for a few comments that frankly we're a little disappointed with them. Most of those comments have been addressed. So they couldn't find it. So we reached out to them this week. Hope to talk to them either tomorrow or Friday. Point out there might be 1 or 2 new comments that they didn't ask in the first comment letter, but they gave us a new comment or 2, and 2 or 3 they couldn't find what we already had. So that was a little disappointing. But really not a big lift to take care of that. Fish Run, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about, but really Fish Run is on hold right now until we can really define our project. It's Franklin Park properties, but okay, so the solution to that is to move downstream. So kind of a moving target on that one. What is the project? Where is the project? Time is of the essence at this point. We know we're going to need an extension, but the more we get done, prior to the extension, I think, and I assume, and I don't know, increases the likelihood of them being receptive to the extension. So, some of the issues there, I don't really think there's much of a change on Fish Run. Since we met last, we've really got to talk to that landowner on the lower portion. To get that, access nailed down so that the construction is reasonable. Without that, that's gonna be very difficult. So I'm sure there'll be some more questions on that.
That's the one that's broken in two because the middle parcel, we can't find the owner.
What, Tennessee or something?
Was that number no good? You can call it yet.
I reached out, got no response.
Did you get, was it a good number? It was
It
somebody's
rang, it went to a
number.
voicemail. And an email didn't get returned, so it's out there.
Max, can it just sit like that with no idea of who it's connected to, and there's not like a quiet title that we could bring or some kind of condemnation that would drag them here if they wanted to defend it?
Potentially
Yeah.
condemnation, but then
Yeah.
the question of service and
Yeah.
we have the corporate address registration, Eckert Siemens
Yeah.
is on there or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do condemn it, we gotta pay estimated just compensation, you gotta pay the back taxes.
Mhm.
We've got, it could, rather than going condemnation, bring it to sheriff's sale, school district and.
Suicide file lien and just go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, got it.
Some
Okay.
payment, if you make a bid, goes to pay the back taxes.
Yeah, you can't develop it, but it would be a good piece of land to own. It's adjacent to a piece we already own
Yeah.
and the stream runs right through it.
Yeah.
Did we ever see what it says on the plan? Is it like a dedicated open space? Or was it supposed to go to the homeowners association? They never transferred it?
There were actually a number of parcels they still own in that development.
They should have all went to the like.
Yeah.
development.
Yeah, they're all still listed under the same owner.
Especially those ones, like.
I was just looking at
The
the
road is some.
That wasn't a PRD, that was that, yeah,
Hey,
Consent order here.
consent order thing. Which throws another loop into it.
Yeah, and
So a couple
the
avenues.
homeowners association hasn't done anything about trying to
They haven't responded to me.
get more land in their name.
I don't think you have to sit on it for long. I mean, as long as you've got that registered corporate address, they're subject to service and that's their problem.
No.
Yeah. So you can do it.
In the meantime,
Question,
as
how
Justin
much-
said, we're gonna try to look for alternatives, but we are up against it. This is gonna be a tough one.
Yeah, so then, the last thing I
Well,
was.
doesn't think I noticed. Whoop. I'll put that in.
It's not officially.
No, I think not.
So then the last thing I had was just the storm sewer mapping, so we did do our second day of field verification on Monday. And that's really going well. I mean, we won't need to go back out in the areas that Gary provided for a third day. But we did note some changes and some differences with the mapping. So we've made those updates to the maps, and we're estimating a day or two of camera work to clarify the connectivity of some of the areas that, maybe there's a buried structure or they couldn't really tell where some of the pipes were going. So, that one is definitely moving forward. I just looked at the data today. So we should get a camera truck out here this month for sure. And then that'll be done. That should be done, that task, and we'll have some updated maps in those areas when we talk about next steps. So that's it.
All right.
And then my follow-up is the Nevin, Dalton, Lenora deal, like what's going on with that? Is there still reworking going on?
There is not anything actively going on right there. I think where I left it was there was, we talked about the one solution where there was a pond or some other things in the backyards.
Yeah.
One other option that we had discussed kind of late in the game that may not require some, or would not require permitting. Because I think the permitting would be difficult, and they may or may not even approve that one. That might be challenging. But again, if you get the money, we could probably get it through. I'm not suggesting that. But rerouting a storm sewer along, what is that? I can't remember. Is it Nevin that's?
It's Nevin.
Nevin. So maybe,
Well, it's Dalton. Nevin's the one that runs all the way down to the cul-de-sac. Dalton's the one that then.
yeah, okay, so Nevin is what I was thinking. Okay. So, the one option that wouldn't require permitting would be to run a storm sewer down Nevin to the cul-de-sac. Well, that would decrease the drainage area by, I can't remember, a few acres, 4 or 5 acres. And that would definitely help reduce the amount of flooding in that area, but I don't think it would eliminate it. So that's an option, because I really do think that, looking at some of the solutions that we considered, the permitting would be fairly cost prohibitive.
So the option that you just suggested about running storm sewer down Nevin, that's something that in your view wouldn't be cost prohibitive. It's something we might want to consider having you work up to see.
I
what
think-
would be on.
Yeah.
It would be something we have to outsource for sure because it's so deep.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, we would be bucking grade, so we would be going against grade until the intersection of Dalton. And then so it would get deep in that intersection. I don't know how deep, but I'd have to run the profile pretty quick. It wouldn't take long, but you're getting around, probably my guess is 15 feet deep. It's not too crazy. Can be done.
Is that a project we can consider then?
Yeah, we can,
Yeah.
what we need to do is look at what all of our projects are that we have
Yeah.
to stormwater and decide which ones to do.
Okay.
But yeah, the pipe is an option. It'll take some of that
Mhm.
off of Dalton.
Yeah.
But again, it would have to be outsourced. There's a lot of utilities there that would have to be
Got
right
it.
around. it.
Okay.
It's a pretty good run. Too.
It's pretty, yeah,
Yeah, it's a one. It's a one.
it's definitely deeper than with one of our guys.
Yeah. Okay, we'll keep that open then.
Anything else?
That's it for me.
Okay. Gary, I forgot to ask you one question. You mentioned in your report, you're taking water samples.
Yes.
And for what purpose?
We do it for the outfalls and for the MS4. For the outfalls, you gotta do water samples, so many, you have to do so many of them within a certain period of time.
MS4 is all about cleaning up the streams.
Right, so it's,
So that's part of what we have to do.
all right, Max. Anything else?
Nothing, talked about a couple of things that have come up since the written report, but we have a couple items for executive session to discuss.
Chief feeling. Chief feelings report.
Yeah, well, that's right, chief. Well, I wait a minute, he works for the mayor. So the mayor-
There's nothing else to have here.
Nice to have you.
Things go well, well, so.
No report, since on the, what was submitted, very good report, actually.
Yeah, always is.
You submitted, yeah, for sure, very complete, thank you. Okay, junior council person, do you want to handle that?
It's actually. I'll get Kathy's help on that.
I'm sorry.
We're junior council person.
Oh, we just needed, I guess, some direction. Since we have Ava and Ava's junior. Kind of don't know what path, council wants to go in. Are we going to seek applications for next year?
Can we see if Ava wants to stay before we?
Yeah.
You don't really stay, you don't have to answer tonight.
One junior.
Yeah.
Or for that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So,
Have we ever had?
We were just talking, I remember one.
we had one who did serve 2 years and it was Ashwin. And when he was appointed as a junior, there were no other applicants. I know that's, so he was appointed as a junior. And I don't remember if he was just, carried into his senior year. I don't I don't remember. So it's council's decision.
We typically go through the process of advertising and asking.
Right, and
for
that's-
applications,
correct.
so
Right.
we still need to do
This
that.
is about the time that Donna notifies the schools that we're seeking applicants for the next school year. So that's the question. Do we want to proceed with that? Or,
I think you have to do that part of it. Right. And then, of course, they could, of course, have to apply again. I guess would be the proper procedure. That it's not known, right? If you choose to do so.
You can do
Okay.
You have to tell us all right.
So we've really been that much fun.
that. You hope it, she really is having a lot of fun.
she likes the really long meeting.
And she told me she also learning.
I'm sure that's true, don't we all, huh? Okay, Reach.
Yes, in your packet is CEC's proposal to continue with the MS4 work, hopefully to completion. For this cycle.
Yeah.
Any questions? Like a done deal?
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Word from Councilman Mayor.
Like I said, no.
You day.
Yeah, we talked about the Cardinal Ridge thing, but it's, but, yeah, it's funny there.
On me? I continue to have, concern about the pedestrian traffic crossing Rochester. You know, from Franklin Town over to the park. We explored a while back, 3 years, but we got, you remember, we explored the crosswalk up there. But there was a problem with the site districts and that big turn down there. Because the state's involved with this. I still see, I'm there, so, you know, I see these families running across the road. Kids running across the road,
Biking.
hiking across the road.
Yeah.
I just don't want us to sit back and all of a sudden something happens there and then then we do have a very bad situation, so. The crosswalk I know was complicated, because you needed a sidewalk on the Franklin Town side, but that there was still not enough distance from there. down
Yeah,
to-
I think PennDOT's biggest concern about the site distance is if they put in a crosswalk and somebody gets hit, you know, this crosswalk basically says, walk here. And PennDOT's saying, no, you shouldn't walk. And that's why they're averse to a sidewalk or a crosswalk.
Well, I can tell you that I come out of Sandhurst and on to Rochester, and they come, not everybody, but some people come through there and it's pretty good. You probably experienced it too, Luke, right?
Yeah.
Through it. And is there something we can do to sign the road that slow down or do something and children crossing, or can we do anything with signage on the road?
I could check with PennDOT. I assume it would have to be PennDOT's on the.
Typically, there's the flashing sign that says park entrance.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna
So, that would be one option.
Yeah.
Flashing sign.
That would be
Flashing
nice,
sign.
yeah.
So the park entrance ahead.
Anyway, we need to explore something.
Okay.
Because
Yeah, there's often during the day, there's a stack of kids on bike waiting to cross, and it's worrisome for sure.
yeah, and then what I've also noticed is from Franklin Town out to the park and from the park to Franklin Town, they're up at least a decent distance.
Yeah.
But I've seen them coming down, walking down Sandhurst, and just walking across Rochester from Sandhurst, and there's very little distance there.
Yeah, there is.
When you're coming, when I go home every day, I go that way.
Oh.
So if I can see somebody, you slow down. But when you're coming up around
Right, if you're
that
coming from
bend,
Kansas, it's quick.
I've noticed there's a lot of traffic too between St. John Newman and the park across the way.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now that's more central to those two
Yeah.
bends.
Right.
Yeah, you do get.
Yeah, I
some
wonder-
traffic there.
Wonder, do you, probably the same issues would be there if we talked about putting a crosswalk up there, because John's right, it is further away from two bends, but the same issues, you think?
Yeah.
That'd be PennDOT's call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you put a crosswalk somewhere.
It's like St. John Newman, yeah.
Sidewalk too.
Yeah, I guess there's not a separate.
Yeah.
a southern side.
but even putting signage up would require state.
Yes, right.
But they might be more open to something like that.
Okay, well, we look into that.
Yeah. One of the challenges.
Signage would just be cautionary, it wouldn't be an invitation to cross the road.
One of the challenges with sidewalks and the reason the state looks down upon them essentially is that the pedestrian assumes that they are safe as a result of that and aren't as diligent in looking, look and listen to these things. So it's a challenge, but maybe the sign will help. So we can get drastic and put rumble strips on it.
Rumble-
You create real problems.
Yeah, and I think you talked to Drew over the same time.
Yeah,
He
right.
talked to me too, because that just came into my mind. I think Drew talked to me about something slow traffic down there at St. John Newman.
Yeah.
And he was suggesting those rumble strips that on Hillendale.
Yeah,
Did you ever go up Hillendale?
yeah.
Those strips aren't going to stop anybody. And I also had a request from a resident that feels there's an issue with, the traffic with the stop sign at by Dragons going up in the Big Swiftly Creek Dragons.
Right.
And, so in fact, I talked with the chief and lieutenant yesterday about this, but I don't know, but one of the suggestions he's making is that we could have a flashing stop sign there. Because in his opinion, the stop, we do post there.
You talking about solar? The solar, like,
Well, we have a flashing stop sign at,
Wexford Run.
Wexford Run.
I agree.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, okay. Could be
I
solar.
don't know, what's involved with finding it, is it complicated getting a flashing stop sign?
Those are our roads, right?
They're state roads.
They are state roads down there?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, something as complicated, I guess, as PennDOT would make it.
Yeah.
So
We can look into that.
I think he's also indicating that the stop sign is being low, and but we talk about, we patrol there, we can't be everywhere 24 hours a day, so. I want to put that out there because that's something he had suggested to me, and I want to put that out, it may be a possibility we can consider.
Oh, we've got new state representation, and maybe we can help.
Yeah. You think of the shot.
What else?
You did. You missed your time.
Yes,
Sorry.
Did I take, so you you sent it to me?
I did, but you actually jogged my memory, so that's good. Speak on this public safety issue and the walking on roads and whatnot. So I know a couple months ago, the developer Taylor Ridge was looking to finish up and not have to take sidewalks for it. Remember that conversation? Looks like they put in sidewalks inside of their apartment development. So it might be time to kind of want to see if we can kind of talk to them to see when are they going to plan on putting the rest of the sidewalks in. The reason I'm asking is there are now a lot of people that are for some reason walking from Taylor Ridge to Deerfield for walks, and they're walking on the side of the Nicholson Road that has no shoulder. Not that either side has one, but they are literally on the side that's the eastern side, which literally is a guardrail on the other side. There's like a huge drop. They're walking all times of the day. I feel like this.
traffic.
Well,
Are they on behind them? They're on the right side of the road?
They're on the right side of the road going north, right, so, there should, I understand that there's a sidewalk that's in the works to be completed at some point, so you go from Taylor Ridge, it could connect to the Deerfield,
Yeah, but
there's something
it's
there.
further back, right? That's the one that's.
No,
further
that's the
back.
one that's going down along the.
It goes down, yeah,
Down, going along the streamer.
It's gonna have to go on a bridge across the stream, right? Sidewalk.
Yeah, there's some sort of bridge like already there, like a little stream, so. Is there, we can kind of like see where that stands, if they've already like put down the concrete for the sidewalk inside the neighborhood, it sounds like they're in a position to like continue this work somehow.
Do we know anything about that?
I know we've met with them several times.
They're very reticent, right? They don't want to do it.
Yeah, well, yes, basically, I mean, it is challenging to get down the hill. They have a plan that shows that it requires building a wall. To be able to get down the hill, stream crossing does exist. And then back up on the other side, there's bond left for it.
Probably not like that way, right?
Being crossing there.
Oh, okay.
Because of the wall number that's in it, there's a big number left, actually. I don't think I've heard from him probably since December, maybe. And that was probably about the time that he did the other sidewalks and,
Yeah, it looks really fresh, so they must have recently.
yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
I've talked to him recently, he's threatening court action.
Over the sidewalk.
Over completing it.
Isn't it a developer agreement that it's
This
being
one,
done?
there's a lot of, I mean, that's 20 some.
For some reason, over the last couple of weeks, there's a lot more people walking, and it's really unusual, so.
So I don't know. I guess we can seize the bond and build it.
What is the water supply? What's,
And then building for the rest
This
of
is
the
down
zone.
there, there's a building here, their plan show a wall.
Okay.
So you can get down the hill,
so it goes
where
against
the
the stream.
stream is, and then back up on the other side. There's not enough room because the building. is cut to the side.
Does that be concrete or can that be like asphalt?
The wall.
No, not the wall, the,
Oh, the path?
Yeah.
I think the plan show a concrete
Yeah.
sidewalk, and I suppose they could bring the council and say if you want to pave and bike in the path. Probably a reasonable.
That might be a way to get there, finish it.
That's a good idea.
You make it out.
Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing more and more of that now, where.
Yeah.
Because it'll, yeah, the
Trails
Deerfield,
instead of concrete sidewalk.
yeah, the Deerfield streets are built out, right, so it
Yeah.
seems like people are walking into Deerfield, going on. Cutting over to Adrian Lane, and then somehow cutting into Fields, I think, whatever that neighborhood is.
Yeah,
So,
Mostly encouraged by the sidewalk, should not be up or down.
exactly,
Right, so they started it, they caused it, we need to do something about it, so we don't get pedestrians run over.
I just figured since they were paved, they were laying down the concrete, they were in position to like.
Yeah.
Continue down and. You know,
Is there any interest for us reaching out to the developer and
About the asphalt?
about using asphalt instead of
Yeah,
concrete?
it might be easier, to for maintain or whatnot.
yeah, it looked nice.
You have to have a right of way, right? And that's.
What do you think, Kevin Shaw?
Outside of the road, it's not, yeah.
You think that's more feasible thing?
I don't know if it would be any cheaper. I don't know if it'd be any easier.
Yeah, but all we can do is toss it out there and see what happens.
Yeah.
But this also involves like Deerfield connecting other stuff, right? It may not be a point of doing that.
Right.
I don't know, I haven't been there in a while, all my neighbors have been walking there, so they probably know more than me. But that's one thing I wanted to bring up, like, just the amount of sheer number of people who are walking on that side of Nicholson. There's literally like no children. Well, sort of one fish.
Okay. Anything else there?
No, I'm good.
Ava. Dr. Lee.
Oh, yeah, first, one resident asked me about the community and I got it, so he couldn't find the information on our website, so he asked me when the community garden was started. And the resident on it, right, we still provide that one, right? Got it.
You talking to me?
No, they talk to anyone. I couldn't understand.
Community garden?
Yeah.
Even though when it was.
We're good,
supposed to-
you know, you.
I'm sorry, what?
Somebody's interested.
Somebody's interested. We're waiting, we're first waiting to see if the people who did it last year want to do it again.
Okay.
Right? They get the first chance.
Yeah, because and that resident told me that he's trying to, and
Has he reached out to us?
he tried to find information from the website, but he couldn't.
Okay.
And last day he tried, but he couldn't get this.
Okay.
Is there a landing page for it?
Yeah.
For the card?
Well, not yet.
Okay.
Because last year, all the sites were taken.
By payment, just by advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had people before we even built it. So if somebody has an interest, they should call Donna Platt here. I'll let us know, because if people opt out, we'll be looking for others that fill that.
Sure. And the second thing is, I usually I drove my son to the Nashville right at the 1-7, and so that is also kind of like the waste management to pick up the trash. And I think 2 days ago, when I drove back and from the Nashville, I noticed that there is one trash can just like in the middle of the road. And I couldn't stop because I have a little car, behind me, and so I would like to say the public and we need to reach out to the waste management just to ask them and to tell the driver, and they need to be careful, and just when they empty the trash can and they just put the can back to the side of the road.
If I remember, is that something?
Yeah.
There was a day, just a week or so ago, when it was windy. And
Yeah,
it was empty one,
Is it the one they were picking up automatically?
No, not automatically.
Sister saw that they were.
And I would like to, I've noticed that sometimes they're in a rush, and because they need to pick up the trash from the side of the road, right? And they'll call just a few cars, and stop behind the, and the pickup truck. So
We'll
they-
remind them that these drivers should take the.
Yeah, a little bit careful, and because I couldn't stop and to move that, and can and to the side, and so it's a little bit seems to be a little bit dangerous, and we just let them know and what's going on. Maybe it's caused by wind, but usually the main cause is that they didn't wait until the trash can stand. They just make it push.
Does it happen often? Because I've never heard that complaint. That's why. I asked you.
In my own community, and usually 20% or 10% of the trash can and not stand there, that they just fall down to the ground.
That's my street too, Reed. Yeah, we just we've been living with it. But yeah, there's a lot, they're just knocked to the ground instead of standing up.
Yes. Very open in my community, but this is the first time I saw the can in the middle of the road, so I thought, okay, maybe I should, ask our board to come back, contact them and just ask them to be careful. Because luckily, and it was right now, kind of, it's not so dark, so people can still tell that, okay, there is a in the middle of the road.
But that fact that day was so windy, it was actually going over the recycle bin.
Yeah. I picked up a lot of trash though.
Yeah,
And that was before they were empty.
Anything else, Dr. Lee?
So that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Schwartzmeyer.
There are a couple things for executive session, but if you know what those.
I do have a couple, Mr. President. I know that we've talked about private lanes and requiring maybe setting some standards in terms of emergency access for them moving forward, possibly any kind of retroactive changes, but we've never really moved forward with that. I think we should definitely talk about it, and I don't know what the next steps are, Max, and you tell me.
It's complicated as anything is with private property, but private roads in general aren't. Something that Tim, Andy and I have been looking at, and in our IFC, the International Fire Code, there is an appendix that talks about the standards for emergency access ways. But it's not in our subdivision and land development ordinance or anything like that. Our saldo now does say, if, even if a road is proposed to be private, not dedicated and taken over by the borough, that it to be built essentially to our standards, so that if it ever is, it can be, and really only emergency access comes into play when we get over a certain length and over a certain number, if it's just a cul-de-sac or something along those
I
lines.
think he's talking about more the
The access road.
emergency, the access,
Using it.
the actual cartway of the right of way is
Substandard
accessible.
for,
is accessible by heavier equipment and stuff. So what we don't have and what may help, or at least new private lanes would be standards but on how they're to be built, because we really don't have that. We just kind of look and see,
yeah.
close with how you're gonna build it, and then, looks okay because it's got some gravel on it.
I mean, if we're talking about retroactive,
That's a whole nother
Yeah.
thing. I
I
don't
mean, it's really an education and perhaps me an outreach. I mean, if the fire company or police or, ambulance authority does some type of a survey, goes out, looks, I don't think we need to do core borings or anything else, but kind of said, that's a gravel road. I would have difficulty putting an ambulance up there. You can send that notification to the residents, acknowledge that they either have a maintenance agreement or by operation of law, there is a maintenance agreement and that they should seriously consider upgrading the road within the right of way to pave it and, to apportion the cost, et cetera, et cetera. Stormwater concerns would come into play with all of that.
So
but
we
you
push
push
a
it
lot
on
of this stuff in the bud because there's not, we don't allow more than 2 lots to be accessed or to front a private lane. Unless it's brought up to borough standards, which is, the whole kit and caboodle. So, so that private lanes don't happen too much, but there is a lot of private lanes that are just, you'd never get your truck back, you never get your tanker back, you never maybe get your engine back. And there's actually driveways like that too for single houses that you're gonna run into those problems with too, but on private property, that's really hard to regulate.
Unless, yeah,
mean,
not the regular, I
that's
mean, it's a
almost
notification type of an issue. I mean, and I want to, what do you do the next step? Do you inform like the insurance company that, hey, if this house catches on fire, it's burning to the ground? So you can't get
I don't think we should be doing that.
No, that's it, and might it motivate somebody to
Yeah.
pave a
I just,
formal.
I'm with Luke, though. I mean, I think there's something should be done. I'm just not certain resources wise, how we can go back retroactively and, but, I mean, do we have
We
it?
have a lot of salt, so we need like put salt down and just say.
There's currently 82 private.
That's what you
lanes.
reminded us of.
Right.
Is there some anecdotal evidence that a house is burned down because because one of the fire trucks didn't get up because the lane was bad? I mean, I'm just wondering if there's anything like that floating around that anybody remembers that.
There was a significant fire at the end of Washington Lane
Yeah,
4 years ago.
And
You guys
it was
back up.
emergency access was.
I'm not saying. it
Yeah,
was-
that lane was pretty well maintained.
Yeah, I mean,
Compared to some.
Weibel Lane, that we rode that,
Yeah.
that wasn't even in Franklin Park, but I think that was fairly accessible. It's when something like that
That was
happens
right on the edge.
in one of those, on one of those lanes off of Camp Meeting Road, that's when it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, the chief brings it up periodically.
Oh,
If he's on the road, he'll say.
That's those
"Man,
damn fires.
Some access if he's aware of it, that we should send a letter, somebody should send a letter saying, hey, this
Yeah,
this is an
that doesn't
issue, we want
bother
to let you
me.
know this is an issue. At least that's a start that, Yeah,
Another fire related one. So I wasn't really aware of this, but I don't know what their technical term is, but the signal changers on 910.
Yeah.
Apparently they don't work very well or.
Yeah,
Yeah, all,
there's only one of them there. Illusion of war,
yeah, but I guess
that's it.
that's an us thing, not a fire department thing.
I know who that belongs to.
You're talking about when you brush the button.
Right.
Well, the way that I believe it's when it's on Yelp, right? Is that how it works? This when the siren's on Yelp, it's supposed to change.
Yeah, that's a police thing.
If you would like, today I can have the nitro guys
That's fine.
I think it's the one that's been confirmed about, I think it's the one at Nicholson.
At Nicholson?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, in the vicinity of, I guess it's not working.
Okay, they can check that whole stretch.
Okay.
I haven't heard any reports. At any.
We just make the siren fairly loud going through there.
No way.
And then finally, this one I think is mostly for Max. I got an email from a resident regarding the fireworks ordinance, and there were a couple questions there. I think I know the answers, but I wanted to get them from you. Our ordinance is about as restrictive as the state allows us to be, right? I think this was your question was, are there any, if our ordinance includes any provisions that are not covered by the state fireworks law, but I don't think.
No, nothing else. I mean, we did not put in the permitting process for consumer fireworks that is allowed by state law, but there's a lot of. We need to do a lot to do that. So in terms of, if we do follow everything, that was the one we carved out, but no, in general, we're following what they set out. And there are, as we talked about before, certain industry we can't touch. And it might be, see how this law sort of develops. Because it does say you can increase your requirements provided you don't conflict with what the state law says. The state law is covering a lot of things like distance from structures and vehicles and things of that nature. So it'll be interesting to see if other municipalities do restrict, and there are challenges to how it plays out, of course.
And the 150-foot setback, that's mandated.
And we are too rural to have the full ban that the Dormonts of the world that have no possible area where you can meet that, but they can just say, nope, no consumer fireworks at all.
Okay, that's all I have.
I only had one thing, and I think we all received a copy of the report by the Audubon Society regarding the Malupert portion of Old Orchard Park. I thought it was extremely comprehensive and well done, and the recommendation to Novus anyhow would seem to me to be something we want to go ahead with. So do we need to do anything from here? Just we'll be doing all the work and we're going to start it. Is that?
Yeah, it's the ball's in our court now. So I think the first step in talking to those folks, apparently to do a burn, we have to get approval from DCNR, and that takes time. So it may be too late this year to do it. So actually, Sarah at Audubon said, why don't you go for a DCNR grant, because it gets awarded next spring, and it's going to be a 5-year process to remove all the invasives.
Yeah.
But we can at least start, do a burn next spring, and then start putting in, for example, the trails that they have, that they're recommending. And
Great.
I think I thought it was a fantastic.
Especially for the very small amount that they charged us to put this together.
Yeah.
I thought it was really
They
good.
did a great job.
It's love some of the new cancer recommending, so it's pretty cool. Okay. Anything else from anybody? I think we're ready for executive session. Thanks, everyone.
I don't know if we can do